Hey, Duality9Xers, welcome back. So, it's been long anticipated. I've been promising that I'm going to be doing a review on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I've been promising for quite some time, actually. The trailer, I put out a teaser. So all that was fun and dandy. And then, obviously I watched the film and watched it at a Cineplex theater. Uh, I love Cineplex theaters. They're just really good. The service from the staff, the cleanliness of the facilities, the theater itself. They're fantastic. They're really good. And of course, all the selection and the variety of the different snacks and things that are available to you. They have the IMAX. They've got the D box. So we watched this film in D box format. So there was a lot of shaking. Excuse me. There was a lot of shaking, a lot of vibrations, a lot of enhanced sound. Something that you would expect from a movie like this. And I think that's good. It's good to have. But the D box for this particular film, as much as I thought would complement this film, it wasn't 100% necessary. I could have been just fine watching it in a regular seat. But the D box did help. It did add to the theatrics and the enjoyment of the film overall. So it was a great experience. If you get a chance to watch anything in D box, definitely. Um, so let's talk about the movie, guys. So we know this movie was released in on Memorial Day weekend on the 23rd of May. The theatrical releases of this was done all across the nation, all across worldwide, actually. So let's talk financials. Financials are important. Financials, obviously, it's really important because that it'll to understand the numbers associated with the film will kind of give you an idea as to how well this movie is doing. And I'm not just talking about here in Canada and the United States. I'm talking about worldwide. So we know that it was released on Memorial Day weekend, and it's already smashed records. It's apparently the eighth highest grossing film of the year, in addition to having the largest opening weekend of the Mission Impossible franchise, and it's grossed over 400 plus million dollars, like 400 plus million. Those aren't small time numbers, guys. Those are really big numbers. And I wasn't expecting anything less. In fact, I kind of expected this film to gross those kind of numbers. They need to get to about $1 billion with a B. They need to get to about $1 billion to obviously recoup the amount of production and operational costs that were associated with the project. Wow, it would be fun to be a project manager on this. Eh? They probably didn't have one. They probably had several teams of numbers of different coordinators and project managers and guys who who are responsible for keeping the budgets and things under control. There was a lot that went behind this film, operationally speaking. Obviously, the filming took place. Majority of the filming took place in the Long Cross Studios, I believe, in the United Kingdom, and the Lake District, and other locations included Malta, South Africa, and Norway. So that would have been exciting. It would have been exciting to be on this film, to be a cast, to visit all those amazing places, some of the best places in the world. So that was kind of cool. There's a lot of reviews about this particular film. It's important. It's important to understand. And as I just kind of scroll through my notes here, um, it's important to understand, first of all, this is this is the eighth and final installment in the Mission Impossible franchise. There is no more. It's final. And in fact, somebody was talking about the future of the film, the future of the franchise, and essentially the dead reckoning, and the final reckoning was intended initially to end the series. Both Tom Cruise and the director Christopher McQuarrie had considered continuing the storyline in some capacity. Now, they never really went into detail, but there was discussion about, there was definitely some interest from Tom Cruise continuing on with this character of Ethan Hunt, and maybe like little films or whatever they wanted to do, but there was that discussion. However, just recently this month, um at the premiere of The Final Reckoning, Tom Cruise confirmed that this will be essentially the final film in the Mission Impossible universe, Mission Impossible franchise. There will be no more. Hence the word final. Final appearance of the franchise. Um, so, unless and of course, somebody is willing to see. I was going to say somebody could potentially replace Tom Cruise, because there was some earlier discussions about Glenn Powell, for instance, wanting to perhaps maybe could take over that role. Um, I'm thinking about James Bond here a little bit, where how they're always constantly looking for the next James Bond. I mean, when I think of James Bond, I think of Pierce Brosnan, right? I think of his character. But I mean, when I think about Mission Impossible, and sorry, let me just go back again. Sorry to my ideas about when I was thinking about who could potentially replace Tom Cruise, and I was talking about like trying to give a comparison to James Bond, and how they're always kind of looking for the next James Bond. Who could that character be? Well, when it comes to James Bond, yes, there are many different characters, many different actors who could potentially play that part, and it would be a hit. But when it comes to Mission Impossible, the storyline revolves around Ethan Hunt and his IMF team. If you replace Ethan Hunt with somebody else, then it's not the same team, obviously. So hence, you're going to have a whole new team, um, different characters perhaps, or maybe a blend of like current characters, with new characters. But then you're going to yeah, it could still be under the Mission Impossible banner, but it'll have to be a new special ops team, or something like that, very covert, like very similar to the IMF team. But it can be done. It's not that it can't be done, but when I think of Mission Impossible, I think of Tom Cruise. So unless Tom Cruise were to perhaps maybe go into the role of like a director and kind of be a little bit more in the back end side of things, operationally speaking, and then have like some of the newer characters, kind of, or have the film kind of focus more on the newer characters. It can be done, but I'd like to see if that does happen. I want to see Tom Cruise still in his role as Ethan Hunt in some capacity, whether that's on the front lines, which he can definitely do, because age does not slow this guy down. I definitely think he can continue to act in a very high performance type of fashion and caliber. But if he chooses to maybe just take a little bit of a lesser role, and maybe do something kind of like, not saying behind the scenes, but more from a director's perspective, that'd be kind of cool too. I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind that either. Anyhow, there's lots. I think if it ain't broke, why fix it? There's no point ending this franchise. I think it can continue on in some capacity, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens there. So let's talk about what we know, right? So we know that Christopher McQuarrie, along with Eric Jennerson, directed and the film. Well, Christopher McQuarrie directed the film, and he co-wrote it with Eric Jennerson. This is the direct sequel to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Okay, that Dead Reckoning 1, sorry, that came out in 2023. And as I mentioned, to reiterate, it's the 8th and final installment of the Mission Impossible franchise. So that's it. Is it final? I don't know. We talked about that, but we'll shed some more light on that. It's not obviously it has Tom Cruise, the main character, as playing Ethan Hunt, and he's alongside His very familiar cast with Hilly Atwell, Ving Rhames, Simon Pegg, Angela Bassett, Henry Czerny. So, obviously they're not even ragtag. These guys are like seasoned professional spies come together to prevent the entity, which is this rogue AI, artificial intelligence that's set to destroy the world. And these guys, Tom Cruise and his bandit of special op agents, are there to prevent this AI from unleashing global havoc. How they go about that? Well, you guys got to watch the film, but it's absolutely incredible. Incredible. So, look, Ethan Hunt and his amazing group of these special op spies, their task to stop this rogue artificial intelligence known as the entity from going ballistic and creating global havoc and destruction on the world. This artificial intelligence can't just go on it by itself. Obviously, it has the help of these doomsday kind of cult-like group of individuals that are very hellbound on wanting to use the entity for their own agenda. And so basically, Ethan Hunt has probably one of the most difficult missions to really stop this from happening. And here's the thing, this is not like preventing the fall of a leader or preventing from a building potentially being blown up, or we're talking about saving the entire planet. See, this artificial intelligence, this entity, is essentially trying to seize control of all the major nuclear warheads and arsenal globally. And that is a concern. We already know the kind of devastation a nuclear bomb could do, right? Now imagine this software that can control, or a group of individuals along with the software that can control all the nuclear warheads in the world. That's a scary thought. And so Ethan has to do his best to try to convince the president of the United States to allow him to continue this mission, where her and the rest of the team are already like shut it down and relinquish this entity source code to us, and we're going to try to figure things out. But he's like, no. He's like, you have to give me this chance. And there's no other choice. There's no other choice. He wants to finish the mission, and he's put his team together to come up with the strategy to shut this thing down and save the planet. Now, along the way, so Ethan is pretending to be played by Gabriel, who happens to be the leader or one of the main, characters of this doomsday cult. And he's okay to be played by him because essentially Gabriel's going to lead Ethan to the coordinates to this module known as the Podkova, which happens to be on the Sevastopol. So Ethan is going to retrieve this module from a sunken submarine. Okay. A sunken submarine. All right. So deep in the frigid waters of the Pacific Ocean, northern Pacific Ocean, of course. And the problem with that, as I mentioned before, is that this sunken Russian submarine, it's not easy to get to. It's basically hanging off this continental shelf in the ocean. So any major vibration, movement could potentially just sink this sub way down into the depths of the unknown forever, long gone. And anyone on that ship is pretty much doomed to be going down with the ship as well, or this vessel. And so with the help of, and this is what I love about this film, right? Because they brought elements from Mission Impossible 1, like from the first movie. And remember remember that character, that CIA analyst, his name is William Donlow. He was the analyst who was working for the CIA. You remember that famous scene where Tom Cruise is like being lowered into that kind of server room to retrieve, information pertaining to like the different agents, within the government. And what a famous scene, like, he's going down, he's being lowered down by his team, and then all of a sudden the guy comes in, he has to be, brought back up again, and then he goes down again. And I mean, it was crazy, to watch all that. And then of course with the knife dropping down, and then so anyways, so that character, they brought that character back, and apparently he was like, he got punished by the CIA for doing a terrible job. He got put on this remote island where he happened to meet his, future wife. And and he ends up working with Ethan and his team, and he plays a very, very important role in this film. So it was really nice to see how they were able to bring back that character. That was really cool. And unfortunately, while Ethan is on this mission on top of a mission, to retrieve this module from the sunken Russian vessel, his longtime ally and teammate, Luther Strickland, played by Ving Rhames, um, ends up getting killed because he's elsewhere in London trying to detonate this bomb, essentially saving the lives of all the people in London. It was a huge sacrifice for the greater good, and that was sad to see. And I knew then, by ending Luther's character there, I did have this feeling that there's going to be some closure to this film, to this franchise. And so when they say it's the final reckoning, I believe it is the final reckoning. But I'll get to that more in just a second here. So that in itself was kind of sad to see. And then there's this amazing scene with Ethan and Gabriel in the air, not on the ground, in the air, on these very old retro, like World War II type aircraft. And just the scenes were so breathtaking. I mean, you guys have to watch the film. I mean, it's just, and if you get a chance to watch the film in the theaters, because you'll really tend to appreciate all the scenes and everything that kind of went into that movie. Watching it on your TV, of course, is going to be great, but watching it on a big screen, like in a theater with all the sound effects and everything, just adds to the whole movie. And yeah, it was amazing. And so obviously, Ethan recovers a poison pill from Gabriel, and he uses it to trap the entity. And look, that in itself is I mean, there could be a whole discussion on it, because it's not as simple as just retrieving that component that Gabriel had and trapping the source code, or sorry, trapping this artificial intelligence in it. No, you had to do it in a way where you only had a split second to react. Otherwise, if you mess up, and if you don't do it within that split second, then the mission fails. So yeah, so this is why Ethan had the most incredible team by his side, because everybody had a certain skill, a certain niche about themselves. And this is where Haley kind of comes in, Haley Atwell, and her character, and she essentially saves the day. So that was really cool. So the entity is caught, it's trapped, and the world has been saved, and the team at the end essentially disbands. And it was kind of sad. That was a sad kind of moment to see everybody kind of coming together one last time, and then just kind of dispersing, right? And just kind of blending in with the crowds. disappear just like that. And until another day, perhaps. We'll see. Ethan was the only, the only guy who could essentially stop the entity. And he had the plan all along. He knew what he needed to do, but he needed a very special team by his side who was able to help him. They did such an incredible job. The acting was really good. Um, yeah, I was really impressed with this film. I mean, it was long. It's a 3-hour film, guys. So, be prepared. Like, get extra popcorn, nachos, cheese nachos, whatever it is that you guys want. But it is a long movie, so you'll have to prepare for that. And of course, Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise, performing his own stunts. Uh, the fights, the scenes were incredible. The stunt scenes were awesome, and I think that's one of the gifts that Tom Cruise brings to a production like this, to the movies, is that he brings along not just his theatrical ability to wow his fans and razzle dazzle on the big stage, but he also does a lot of his own stunts, and I think you guys will be quite impressed with the stunt scenes in this film. So, here's okay. There's a lot of people who commented on. There's a lot of people doing reviews on this film. A lot of people commenting on it. A lot of people who, are definitely in favor of this film. And there's a lot of people, surprisingly, who do not like this film. And there's a lot of big YouTubers who just trash the film. And look, not every film can go in accordance to how we want it to end. It's a film, and this is the eighth and final installment in this franchise. I mean, so far as we know. But they and if there is going to be more films coming around, that's fantastic. I welcome it. I hope they do. I hope Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie, and all those involved get together and say, hey, look, this was actually really good. I think now what we can do is create another story. We're going to have to kind of, tweak some things a little bit, but I think it's doable. I think it can be done. And, but there was a lot of, just kind of getting to some of the negative reviews, there was a lot of negative reviews about the air scenes, the scenes in the air. With Tom Cruise and Gabriel with the old planes. Some people felt it was dragged on a little bit too much. Some people complained about the dragging on of Ethan on the sunken submarine. Look, I think these scenes were important. Were they a little long? Sure. But I think they had to be. There was a reason for that. And those are big scenes, guys. You can't just end those scenes quickly. You have to create that story, that element. And look, I'm sorry, but you're midair, like 20,000 feet in the air, right? And you're hanging on a plane, okay? That's not a scene you can just quickly end and then move to the next scene. It is going to take a little bit of effort and complexity on behalf of Ethan's character to really show the reality and to make people believe in that scene. And the whole thing with the Russian submarine, it was a little bit slow, I agree, but it was very suspenseful. And that in itself was important because when you watch the movie, you tend to appreciate the circumstances surrounding where Ethan is and all that's happening to him at that given moment, understanding that any wrong move in that submarine is going down off the continental shelf into the deep beyond forever with whoever's inside of it. That's it. There's no coming back from that. And it's important that that scene was as long as it was, so you really feel all the elements that went into that scene and appreciate it even more. So for all the naysayers out there and the people who did not like that and wanted it to end sooner. Well, too bad, so sad, guys. And that's the way they made the film. And Christopher McQuarrie and all those involved in the production team, they obviously know what they're doing. So if you think you can make a better film, and you guys know who you are, then go make another film. And if you have the budget, you need about $1 billion. Then good luck. Go create the film with your own ending and your own scenes. I think it was great. The film, in my opinion, was fantastic. There was some predictability in certain parts of the movie, of course. And, some of it is obviously a little far-fetched in terms of, how things kind of play out. But it's a movie, guys. And at the end of the day, we want Ethan to win. We want his team to win and succeed and at their mission. Otherwise, it's the end of the world. We do not want that. So I'm glad how it played out. I'm glad at how the plot, or shall I say how the movie progressed, through the different stages and chapters of the film, and I'm happy with the ending as well. The only thing I would like to see now is I want to see more. I want to see more of Ethan Hunt. I want to see more of his team, and perhaps some of the new characters that came on board as well. And perhaps maybe they could do, maybe not a TV series, but maybe they could do another film, something similar to like that of like a Bourne, or um, even a Bond, but kind of like, yeah, keep it Mission Impossible, of course, and keep it with a lot of the same kind of characters, but introduce some new characters and some new missions, right? So again, now the focal point is not necessarily all about Tom Cruise, but it's about some of the other characters, and kind of bring about their special niches and abilities, and new adventures, of course. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see. So essentially, that's my review, guys, in a nutshell. It was a long review. I always get the, it. I wanted to spend time on this film. I wanted to show. I wanted to explain from my opinion how I feel about it. Guys. Uh, this film started, I think, back in '96. We're talking about 30 some years ago. The franchise, that is, the Mission Impossible franchise. So there's a lot to unravel here. So obviously this took a little bit longer, but I wanted to share my true thoughts and my opinions on it. Uh, of course, there are certain areas of the film that you can tweak, you can improve on, you can make better. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect in life, but I really enjoyed this film. And again, great thanks to all those in the theaters, and for all that they do and all the hard work, like just, and again, for me, the most important thing is, if I'm going to a theater, to me, it's, cleanliness is very important, right? The service, the cleanliness, the variety of different snacks and food items, things that are available. You want to make the whole viewing experience very pleasurable. And Cineplex did an amazing job doing that. But aside from that, my family really enjoyed it as well too. And I really hope this is not the end of the Mission Impossible franchise. And as I would say, the Mission Impossible universe. I hope there's a lot more to come. So on that note, I would like to hear your guys' thoughts and comments on this. Feel free to share. And on your way out, guys, smash the like and subscribe. And of course, I look forward to catching you guys on the next one.